When it comes to elasticating your pole, it's really important to get your setup correct, regardless of the elastic that you're using, and especially when we're talking about side pullers. So in this video, I want to show you my way of efficiently setting up your elastic, and especially if you're lucky enough to have purchased a brand new Aero pole, it's a good guideline on how to set all your top kits up when they're brand new. Now, all the Aero top kits, regardless of what they are, whether they're shallow kits, the power kits or the match kits, they come pre-bushed with an internal bush, but at the end you need to put your own puller system in. Me personally, I love to use the Preston pullers. Now you can see there's a 10mm hole I've had to drill there, but what I love about these, they've got a lovely roller on the end which the elastic runs really smooth. That makes that whole pulling of the elastic through the puller system, let's call it, so efficient and smooth and fluent. So I'm going to start off by showing you how to insert this first of all. So I've drilled the hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out, it comes with like a PTFE bush in the middle of it, and this is what clamps it in place. So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to slide the roller in first, because you can imagine the elastic's going to go through the hole, over the roller and down the pole. Just get that in place. You can heard it just click into place now. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to thread up my elastic. Now a lot of people might try and actually drop the elastic down, and you can do that, but I've found a quicker way, a more efficient way, and all I've done is I've put 4 number 8 stots onto 015 Aero slick silk line. Your 015, 018 line, not a line that's too thick, something that's quite soft so the weight of the shot allows to pull that line through quite easily, and I'm going to drop it through this hole. Now a lot of people might think, why use a pole threader, a wire threader? You can do, but I prefer to use line because it's more friendly on especially PTFE material here. So literally I've not cut any line off, I'm just going to run that down and it's dropped straight through like so. Peel some more line off, and I'm going to do it through both sections. So grab the line now, and this is obviously a 2-piece match kit what I'm using, which, and of course if you're threading, let's say your F1 kits, it's actually even easier to do it this way. So all I'm going to do is run this down and it's dropped through there like so. Just grab the end of it. I'm just going to join the pieces together like so. So now I've got the line running right through. Now what I want to do now is at this end here, I want to thread the elastic from the puller system down to the bush. So I'm going to cut the line off there. So we're all ready to thread the elastic. Now, how to connect the elastic. All I use is a uni knot. We'll do a zoom in on this, but a uni knot is a locking blood knot. So all I do is I create a loop like so around my finger. My middle, that finger goes through the first loop that I've created, and then I pinch the line. So I've got a double loop going, and I'll whip through the second loop 4 times, pull it tight like so. And now I've got a sliding loop, which I'm going to lock onto my elastic. So all I'm going to do now is lock that on right on the end of the elastic like so. You can see that, that's locked on nice and neat. I'm going to trim off the end of it so it helps pull through a lot easier. Just trim it off right next to where I've locked it on like so. And now all I need to do now is grab this, and there we have it. All the elastics pull through. Now what you don't do is you don't cut this line, because that's your safety blanket. If the elastic comes back like so, you can just pull it back out with the line, because what I'm going to do first is I'm going to connect my bead at the top end. So first of all, I put on the PTFE bush that sits inside the pulley system. And I'm going to click that into place now. That locks the whole package in place, secures the outer frame of the pulley system in place. Make sure I've got loads of elastic at the bottom dangling out. And then I'm going to attach a bead to the end. Now there's two beads that I use, one for the top end, which is the pulley system, which are the Drennan swivel stop beads. So I'm going to use a size 11 for the top and a size 14 for my Dacron connector. So how do I connect this to my line? Well, again, exactly the same process as what I showed you with threading the elastic through. So I'm going to do a uni knot. Exactly the same. Form a loop. I think it's just a really efficient knot system for threading the elastic. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pull it tight. I'm going to lock that onto the end of my elastic, and this is just so I can thread the bead onto even a thick elastic like that, nice and tight. Again, trim it down because it helps it come through the bead really easy, hopefully anyway. Cut the line off. You only need a little bit of line like that. Now on this bead you've got, don't know if you can see it on the camera, you've got a wide end and a narrow end, and what I want to do is I want to thread it through the narrow end first, because at the wide end is where the knot of the elastic is going to bed into. So I'm going to get that up to there and pull it through very carefully like so. Trim this off like so, put that line there. So that's all ready now to tie a single blood knot. So all I'm going to do is wrap it around my fingers like so. Just wet the elastic so there's no burning or friction caused on the elastic as I'm tying the knot, and I'm going to put the tag end through 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another wet, pull it down, and you end up with a nice bulbous full blood knot. Trim it off, and then I'm going to pull that down now, and that sits neatly on the top of the bead. Now the beauty about these beads is they're adjuster beads, so once you get your elastic tension correct, if all of a sudden, let's say you're in the middle of a match and your elastic's getting a lot of abuse, you're catching a lot of fish, the elastic starts to sag at the end, all it means is you can adjust the tension very accurately to get the tension right for how you want it. Now the beauty about it as well is if you get a big fish on and it wants to bottom you out, it stretches that elastic to its maximum, it will naturally pull the elastic through that bead. So you've got that extra elastic cushion as well. That's really important when you're on snaggy pegs, where you can really tighten your elastic up with that bead, but when you hook a big fish, get it out into the open water, and then the fish can pull that elastic through the bead. So you've got a double action kind of principle with your elastic. So that's the top end done. Now tension your elastic correctly. So I've got loads of elastic here. One thing to remember is you can always cut it down afterwards. So I'm a big believer in just getting the tension right. And the beauty about when you're using dry top kits, brand new top kits especially, it's easier for you to gauge where that tension is. If your top kits are wet, be very careful and make sure you lube the top kits if that is the case, to get that true reading of the biting point of the elastic. So the biting point is literally there. Now a lot of people might take an inch off and then do it. I just like to do it there, sag. And then once I've got my elastic correct, then I'll adjust it afterwards just by trimming it down at the top. It's always easier to trim it down at the top. So before I bite it, all I'm going to do, so I know I've got the marker in place, is cut this line off, and I'm just going to put A simple little knot there. That's telling me my marker point where I need to trim it there. So my next thing I need to do is I need to get a smaller bead, which is the size 14. Again, you've got a narrow end and a wide end. And what I want to be doing is putting this onto the elastic after I've put my Dacron connector on, and this is a really effective way of setting up your top kit. So I've got the bead out ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a Dacron connector now, and this is what my rig is actually going to sit on. So I'm using Aero fluorocarbon 025 twizzled boom, so it's twice the thickness, so it's really going to stand out proud from the end of your top kit, and that's going to from your elastic. So especially when you're rotating a rig, especially on commercials, you've got zero chance of getting any tangles or any problems at the terminal end of your elastic, where it's really important that it immediately comes out and cushions that fish when you've hooked it. So a little length of that, and all I'm going to do is twizzle it. So twisting it with my right thumb and finger, and you can see it's all twizzling up now, like so. So I've got about 4 inches, that's all I need. And then all I'm going to do is at the bottom is tie a knot. That's just to keep everything in place. And then I'm going to put the line through the loop at the top, like so. So once I've got that ready, I'll then cut this off above the knot, thread that onto the elastic, like so, and it naturally locks in. There's no knot there, it's just a locking loop, so to speak. Hold on to it so it doesn't come loose, and then I'm going to thread the bead on. Now with the bead, I want to thread it so I'm going through the fat end first, onto the narrow end, like so. And then all I'm going to do is tie a single knot, like so. That's all you need, that's all you want, is to lock onto the elastic that single knot there, like so. I'm going to trim that right down now. Like so. Just show you, you can see that. And then I'm going to pull that through, and there we have it. That is the finished Dacron connector end, nearly. So a little bit of fine tuning now. You can see how nice and smooth and efficient that is now. And as well as that, that bead is really small, sits on the end of the internal bush really nice and neat. So what I need to do now is I really need to shorten this Dacron connector down to the length I want it for, especially for even on all my natural venues and commercials. I'll have a really short Dacron, so everything is nice and straight at the end, and that helps you hit more bites especially. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a loop right at the bead. I'm holding the bead itself, and I'm going to go through the loop 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to hold on to the knot. And by holding on to the knot, if you can see, I've done that 4 times. If I pull that, the knot will come down. So what I'm doing is I'm actually pushing the knot up against, as I'm pulling the line down, and you end up with, let's trim it down now, a lovely, nice, neat, trim it just below the knot there, you can see that. And there we have a fully elasticated top kit, perfectly tensioned. So I hope you'll be able to use that information when you're setting up your top kits in future. So a top tip, I've shown you how to elasticate your brand new top kits up and threading elastic into an unused top kit. But let me quickly explain to you a really good tip when it comes to re-elasticating your top kits. And it is a simple case of using the same knot as what I've showed you with the uni knot, attaching the line to the elastic. So all I do now is I trim off that connector, the Dacron connector. I'd then tie a uni knot of line, the same line, let's say 015, 018 line, something like that, right to the end, trim it right down next to that knot where it's locking now onto the elastic. Again, the same knot onto your brand new elastic, so you only need a length of line, about that much. Attaching your new elastic to the line at the other end, using again the same knot, the uni knot. Going down to the business end, down to the puller system, and pulling the old elastic, allowing the new elastic to run up through the pole. And the reason why I attach it via a line, in this area here, if you tried to loop and tie up your old elastic using a knot to your new elastic, sometimes the knot's a bit too big and you have a problem pulling it through this system here. But with the line, it just runs through nice and smooth. Then go through the whole process of what I've shown you about setting up your Dacron connector and your puller bead system here at the end, and that's it, job done.